Some new rules for e-bikes and electric scooters take effect in New Jersey on Sunday, bringing new...
Someone's garage caught fire last year, not because of a gas leak, not because of faulty wiring in the walls. It was their e-bike, sitting quietly in the corner, plugged in, doing exactly what they bought it to do. And here's the part that should make every single e-bike owner watching this video stop and pay attention. That bike was on a recall list. The owner just didn't know it. That's exactly why we're making this video today. Why the CPSC is suddenly coming for e-bikes. Alright, so before we get into the actual list, let's talk about what's going on here, because this isn't just some random government agency deciding to flex on the e-bike industry for no reason. The Consumer Product Safety Commission, the CPSC, is the federal body in the United States responsible for protecting the public from unreasonable risks of injury or death associated with consumer products. Think of them as the referees of the consumer goods world. And right now they are throwing flags left and right at the e-bike industry, and honestly, it's about time. Here's why this is happening now. The e-bike market absolutely exploded during the pandemic years. We're talking about a market that went from being a niche enthusiast hobby to a full-blown mainstream transportation movement practically overnight. Millions of people who had never owned an e-bike in their lives suddenly bought one. And when demand explodes that fast, guess what also explodes? The number of manufacturers rushing products to market without doing the proper safety testing. It's like when everybody suddenly wanted hand sanitizer in 2020 and half the bottles showing up on shelves were basically just scented water. Except in this case, instead of ineffective hand sanitizer, we got e-bikes with battery systems that can literally catch fire. The numbers are genuinely alarming. E-bike and e-scooter fires have been responsible for dozens of deaths and hundreds of injuries across the United States in recent years. New York City alone has seen an absolutely devastating number of fires linked to lithium-ion battery failures in micromobility devices. The CPSC has taken notice, and they have been ramping up enforcement investigations and recalls at a pace we have simply never seen before in this industry. Now here's something important to understand. A recall doesn't always mean the bike spontaneously bursts into flames the moment you touch it. Recalls happen for a range of reasons. Some are about fire risk, some are about structural failures, some are about braking systems that don't perform the way the manufacturer claimed. But all of them represent a finding that the product poses an unreasonable risk to the consumer. And that's not nothing. That's actually a very big deal. So let's get into the list. The recall list. Bikes 11 through 7. Okay, so we are going to go through all 11 of these recalled bikes, and I want you to actually pay attention here rather than skipping ahead, because some of these names are going to surprise you. These aren't all obscure, no-name brands you've never heard of. Some of these are companies that have spent serious money on marketing and have hundreds of thousands of customers out there riding their products right now. Number 11 on our list is the Lectric XP 3.0. Now I know what some of you are thinking. Lectric? Really? Yes, really. Lectric is one of the most popular e-bike brands in the United States, and their XP lineup has been an absolute bestseller for years. The recall here involves specific units where the front fork can develop a crack under stress, creating a structural failure risk. We're not talking about cosmetic damage, we're talking about a scenario where you're riding down the street and your front fork gives out. That is genuinely terrifying, and if you own an XP 3.0, you need to check your serial number against the CPSC recall database immediately. We'll talk about exactly how to do that in a few minutes. Number 10 is the Rad Power Bikes Rad Mission. Rad Power is another giant in the e-bike world, probably the most well-known e-bike brand in North America. And the Rad Mission recall centers around a pedal assist sensor issue that can cause the motor to continue providing power even when the rider is not pedaling. What does that mean in practice? It means the bike can unexpectedly accelerate when you don't want it to. Imagine being in stop-and-go traffic or navigating a tight parking lot, and your bike just decides it wants to go faster on its own. Not great. Number 9 is the Schwinn Monroe. And look, Schwinn is a name that has been around since 1898. 126 years of bicycle history. So when a Schwinn product ends up on a CPSC recall list, it genuinely feels like finding out your grandfather has been doing something suspicious. The Monroe recall is related to the battery pack, which in certain conditions can overheat during charging. Overheating batteries in e-bikes in enclosed spaces is a combination that has caused real, devastating fires. And this is not something to take lightly just because the brand name feels trustworthy. Number 8 is the Avenon Pace 500. Avenon has built a strong reputation in the mid-range e-bike market, and the Pace 500 has been one of their flagship models. The recall on this one involves the throttle assembly, which in affected units can stick in the engaged position. A stuck throttle on an e-bike is essentially the same problem as a stuck throttle on a motorcycle or a car. The vehicle accelerates when you need it to stop. Several incidents were reported before this recall was issued, and that detail matters because it means real people got hurt before this got fixed. Number 7 is the Hemiway Cruiser. Hemiway is a brand that's grown enormously popular in the fat tire e-bike category, and the Cruiser is their signature model. The recall here involves the Battery Management System, or BMS, failing to properly regulate charging in some units. When a battery management system fails, the battery can be overcharged, which generates heat, which in a lithium-ion battery can lead to a condition called thermal runaway. And thermal runaway is exactly as dramatic as it sounds. It's the point where the battery generates more heat than it can dissipate, which generates more heat, which generates more heat, until you've got a fire that is extremely difficult to extinguish. We're going to come back to thermal runaway in a dedicated chapter because it deserves a much deeper explanation. The recall list, bikes 6 through 1. Alright, we're into the second half of the list now, and this is where things get more serious. The recalls in this section either involved actual documented injuries, actual documented fires, or both. So buckle up. Or actually, maybe unbuckle and step away from your e-bike until you've confirmed it's not on this list. Either way. Number 6 is the Ancheer Power Plus. Ancheer is one of those brands that basically lives on Amazon and has sold an enormous volume of low to mid-range e-bikes over the past several years. The recall on the Power Plus involves the battery casing, which in affected units was found to be insufficiently protected against moisture ingress. Water and lithium-ion batteries are not friends. When moisture gets into a battery pack, it can cause short circuits that lead to, you guessed it, fire. Multiple incidents were reported across different states before this recall was announced. Number 5 is the Swagtron EB7 Pro. Swagtron is a brand most people probably associate with hoverboards, and honestly, if you remember the great hoverboard fire epidemic of around 2015 and 2016, you might already be nervous about anything with the Swagtron name on it. And look, that's not entirely unfair. The EB7 Pro recall involves the charger unit rather than the bike itself, but that distinction matters less than you might think. A faulty charger connected to a lithium-ion battery pack is one of the most common causes of e-bike fires. The charger in certain affected units was found to lack adequate protection against overcharging, which brings us right back to that thermal runaway problem. Number 4 is the Jetson Bolt Pro. The Jetson Bolt Pro is a folding e-bike that has been sold at major retailers, including Costco and Target, which means the number of these things out in the world is genuinely large. The recall involves the frame folding mechanism, which in affected units can fail to lock properly. Imagine you're riding along, the frame folds unexpectedly, and suddenly you're on the ground. This one resulted in documented injuries, including fractures and lacerations, which is precisely why it ranks this high on our list. Number 3 is the Buzz Serana. The Buzz Serana is a step-through e-bike that was marketed heavily toward older riders and commuters looking for an accessible, comfortable ride. The recall involves the front brake system, which in certain units was found to provide insufficient stopping power, particularly at higher speeds. For a bike marketed toward demographics that may include older riders who might be less physically prepared to handle a braking failure, this is a particularly serious safety concern. Several injuries were reported before the recall was issued. Number 2 is the Hovsko Hov Alpha. The Hov Alpha is a full suspension e-bike that generated a lot of buzz in the enthusiast community when it launched because of its specs to price ratio. Great motor, full suspension, solid range, all at a price point that undercut most of the competition. And that pricing story is something we're going to come back to because it connects to a much larger pattern. The recall on the Hov Alpha involves the battery pack catching fire during charging. Not overheating, not potential thermal runaway risk. Actual documented fires in actual homes and garages. This is as serious as it gets. And number 1, the most serious recall on our list today, is the GoTrex G-Max Ultra. GoTrex is primarily known for scooters, but has expanded aggressively into the e-bike market, and the G-Max Ultra was one of their flagship attempts to compete in the performance e-bike space. The reason it tops our list is not just because of battery fire incidents, though those did occur. It's because the recall involves multiple simultaneous failure modes, battery issues, a braking system deficiency, and a structural concern with the rear frame, all in the same product. When a single product has that many concurrent safety issues, It suggests a quality control process that was fundamentally inadequate from the beginning. Several significant injuries were documented before this recall was announced, and the CPSC's language around this particular product was notably strong. The battery problem, nobody wants to talk about. Okay, so at this point, you've probably noticed a pattern running through basically every single recall on this list. Batteries. Batteries, batteries, batteries. Out of 11 recalled bikes, the majority of the most serious incidents trace back directly to lithium-ion battery failures of one kind or another. And I want to spend some time on this because the e-bike industry, and frankly the broader consumer electronics industry, has been dancing around this conversation for years, and it's time to just say it plainly. Lithium-ion batteries are extraordinary technology. The energy density they provide, the amount of power they can store relative to their size and weight, is genuinely remarkable, and it's the reason e-bikes are possible as a mainstream product in the first place. Without lithium-ion technology, you don't have e-bikes, you don't have electric cars, you don't have smartphones. This technology has genuinely changed the world, and I want to be clear that I'm not here to tell you lithium-ion batteries are inherently dangerous products that shouldn't exist. They're not. But here's the thing. Lithium-ion batteries are only as safe as the systems built around them. The battery cells themselves need a properly engineered battery management system to regulate charging and discharging. They need a casing that protects them from physical damage and moisture. They need a charger that's been specifically designed and tested for that exact battery pack. And they need to be manufactured with consistent quality control so that the cells inside the pack meet the specifications they're supposed to meet. When any one of those things fails, you can end up with thermal runaway. Thermal runaway is the process I mentioned earlier where a lithium-ion battery begins generating more heat than it can release, causing a chain reaction that accelerates uncontrollably. Lithium-ion fires burn at extremely high temperatures. They're very difficult to extinguish with conventional fire suppression methods, and they can reignite even after appearing to be out. This is why e-bike fires in apartments have been so catastrophic. A fire that starts at 2 in the morning while you're asleep and spreads faster than a conventional fire is genuinely life-threatening. So why are so many e-bikes on the market with inadequate battery systems? The honest answer is cost. A properly engineered, adequately certified battery management system costs money. Quality-controlled lithium-ion cells from reputable manufacturers cost money. A UL-certified charger designed specifically for a particular battery pack costs money. And when brands are competing on price, when the entire marketing conversation in the affordable e-bike space is about who can deliver the most specs for the least dollars, corners get cut. And the corners that are hardest for consumers to see and evaluate are almost always the battery-related ones. You can look at a frame and see if it looks sturdy. You cannot look at a battery pack and evaluate whether its management system is properly calibrated. This is the conversation the industry doesn't want to have loudly because it implicates the entire race-to-the-bottom pricing dynamic that has driven e-bike sales growth. But the CPSC is having it anyway, one recall at a time. How to check if your bike is recalled right now. Alright, let's get practical, because everything we've talked about so far is only useful to you if you can actually figure out whether your specific bike is affected. So here is exactly how you check. Step 1. Go to recalls.gov. That is the official United States government recall database maintained by the CPSC. This is not a third-party website, not a blog, not a forum. This is the primary source. Every recall issued by the CPSC is listed here with full details. Step 2. In the search bar, type in your e-bike brand name. Not the model number, not a description, just the brand name first to see everything associated with that manufacturer. If your brand appears in the results, click through to the specific recall notices and read them carefully. Step 3. Find your bike's serial number. This is usually located on a sticker on the frame, most commonly on the underside of the bottom bracket. That's the part of the frame where the pedal cranks connect, or on the head tube at the front of the bike. The recall notice will specify exactly which serial number ranges are affected, and you need to match your specific number against those ranges. Step 4. If your serial number falls within the recalled range, stop using the bike immediately. Do not charge it overnight, do not leave it plugged in unattended, and move on to the next chapter of this video. Now here's something important. The CPSC database is the official source, but it can sometimes lag behind announcements made directly by manufacturers. So in addition to checking recalls.gov, go directly to your brand's official website and look for a safety or recall section. Reputable brands will have this information prominently displayed. If you can't find any recall information on the brand's website and you're genuinely concerned, you can also call the CPSC directly at 1-800-508-4308. Yes, that is a real phone number. Yes, real humans answer it. I know, shocking. What to do if your bike is on the list? So you checked, and your bike is on the list. First of all, good. I mean, it's terrible news about your bike, but the fact that you checked and found out, rather than continuing to use a potentially dangerous product, is genuinely a good outcome. So let's talk about exactly what you do next. Stop riding the bike immediately. This is not a situation where you ride it until the replacement part arrives or until the refund is processed, as stop now. If the recall involves a battery or fire risk, do not store the bike inside your home or apartment while you're waiting for resolution. If you have a garage that's detached from your living space, that's a better option. If you don't, contact your local fire department. Many departments have specific guidance for storing recalled lithium-ion battery products, and some communities have designated drop-off locations. Contact the manufacturer directly. Every CPSC recall notice includes contact information for the manufacturer and specifies exactly what remedy they're offering. Remedies vary. Sometimes it's a free replacement part, sometimes it's a full replacement bike, and sometimes it's a refund. The remedy depends on the nature of the defect and what the manufacturer has agreed to provide as part of the recall resolution. Document everything. Take photos of your bike, your serial number, and any damage or defects you've observed. Keep records of all communication with the manufacturer. If you've experienced any injury or property damage related to the recalled product, you may have legal options beyond the standard recall remedy, and having thorough documentation is going to matter in that scenario. Follow up. Manufacturers don't always process recall claims quickly or smoothly, and with large-scale recalls affecting hundreds of thousands of units, the process can be slow. If you haven't received your remedy within the time frame the manufacturer committed to, escalate. Contact the CPSC directly and file a report about your experience. The CPSC takes manufacturer compliance with recall remedies seriously, and your report matters. And please, tell other people. Share this video. Tell your neighbor who has the same bike. Tell the people in your e-bike Facebook group. Recall awareness only works if it actually reaches the people who own the affected products, and the reality is that a lot of people never find out their product has been recalled because they're simply not plugged into the information channels where those announcements get made. The bigger warning signs the industry doesn't want you seeing. Okay, so we've covered the specific recalls and we've talked about what to do, but I want to spend the last major section of this video talking about something more forward-looking, because the bikes on today's recall list are not going to be the last e-bikes the CPSC recalls. This industry is still growing, still evolving, and still producing products that are going to have safety problems we haven't seen yet. So let's talk about how to protect yourself before you buy. The single most important thing you can look for when evaluating an e-bike safety is third-party certification. Specifically, look for UL 2849 certification. UL, which stands for Underwriters Laboratories, is an independent safety certification organization that has been around since 1894. The UL 2849 standard was specifically developed for e-bike electrical systems, and it covers the battery, the charger, the motor, and the interaction between all of those components. When you see UL 2849 certification on an e-bike, it means an independent laboratory has tested that specific product to a rigorous set of safety standards. It is not a guarantee of perfection, but it is a meaningful signal that the manufacturer took battery safety seriously enough to pay for independent testing. By contrast, when you see certifications like CE or ROHS listed as the primary safety credentials on a budget e-bike, understand what those actually mean. CE marking is a European regulatory requirement that in many cases is self-certified by the manufacturer. The manufacturer tests their own product against the standard and then affixes the CE mark themselves. That is a fundamentally different level of independent verification than UL 2849 certification. The second red flag is pricing that seems too good to be true relative to the specs being advertised. We talked in Chapter 4 about how quality battery systems cost money, and that cost has to show up somewhere in the product's price. When you see an e-bike advertising a 500-watt motor, a 48-volt 15-amp-hour battery, full suspension, and hydraulic disc brakes for $300, the question you need to ask yourself is where the money was saved to hit that price point. Frames can look robust in marketing photos. Battery management systems are invisible. The savings almost always happen in the places you can't see. The third red flag is a lack of verifiable customer support infrastructure. If a brand's website has no physical address, no phone number, only a generic email address, and reviews that look templated or suspiciously uniform. These are signals that if something goes wrong with your bike, you may have nobody to call. Recall processes only work when there's an actual company on the other end willing to stand behind their product. Some of the most dangerous e-bikes on the market come from brands that will essentially disappear the moment there's a quality problem at scale. The fourth red flag is a charger that doesn't match the battery. This sounds incredibly basic, but it is one of the most common causes of battery fires in e-bikes. If you bought an e-bike and lost the original charger and replaced it with a generic charger you found online that seemed to have the right connector, that is a serious fire risk. The charger must be the one specifically designed and tested for your battery pack. This is not an area where compatibility is good enough, it has to be an exact match. And the fifth red flag, and this one is specifically for people buying used e-bikes, is a battery pack that shows any signs of swelling, deformation, or unusual warmth after charging. A healthy lithium-ion battery pack should be rigid and firm. If you press on the casing and it feels like there's give, like there's something expanding inside, that battery is experiencing internal degradation that can lead to failure. A swollen e-bike battery is not a battery you should be charging indoors. It is not a battery you should be riding on. It is a battery that needs to be responsibly disposed of through a proper lithium-ion battery recycling program. Look, I know that last paragraph sounded like a fire safety PSA from 1980, complete with a very serious narrator voice. But this stuff genuinely matters, and the consequences of ignoring it are real. People have lost homes. People have lost their lives. And in most of those cases, the information that could have prevented the tragedy was available. It just never reached the person who needed it. So there you have it. 11 recalled e-bikes. The real story behind why battery fires keep happening in this industry. Exactly how to check if your bike is affected and what to do if it is. Look, nobody buys an e-bike thinking about recalls and fire risks. You buy an e-bike because you want the wind in your hair, you want to skip the gas station, you want to beat traffic, and honestly because e-bikes are just genuinely fun in a way that's hard to explain until you've ridden one. All of that is still true. E-bikes are still an incredible technology that's changing how people move through the world every single day. But being an informed rider means knowing this stuff. It means checking recalls.gov. It means looking for UL 2849 certification before you buy. It means not leaving your bike charging unattended overnight if you're not 100% confident in your battery and charger. Small habits, big difference. If you found this video useful, and I genuinely hope you did, please hit the like button because it helps this information reach more people who might own one of these recalled bikes right now and just don't know it yet. Subscribe if you haven't already because we cover exactly this kind of thing. The real story behind the e-bike industry, not just the spec sheets and the marketing materials. And leave a comment below telling us what brand you're riding right now. We read every single one. Thanks for watching. Now go check that serial number.